Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 PSN review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Soul Calibur 2 on the PS3, which if you've never played it before, it's a fighter slash beat 'em up, whatever you call them. Obviously I usually get wrong for calling them beat 'em ups, but at the end of the day the objective is to beat the shit out of your opponent until they're not dead, they're knocked out, and then you do it again for the next round. You're not killing them or anything, not even with these weapons, so it's why I personally think beat 'em up is a better term for this thing. That and the fact that I grew up with British games media and the likes of Games Master and Dominic Diamond used to always call them beat 'em ups. At the start, you're going to notice that I've barely played this version because I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm kind of used to, in this generation of fighters, beat 'em ups, whatever, kind of having everything right at the start, and because of that I actually bought the game assuming that would be the case, because at the end of the day I've done Weapon Master mode, which at the moment, if you've never played any of the games, is going to be jargon, and I promise I will explain this, but for now, for people who do know about it, I've beaten the entirety of Weapon Master mode about 3 times. I did the original Soul Edge one once, there's not one on Soul Calibur, and I've done the Soul Calibur 2 one on the GameCube 3 times or so. Because I ended up getting rid of the game, then I thought, you know what, I can't live without it, I have to get it back. And then when I completely got rid of the GameCube and that, and I realised that the only thing good about the Wii was being able to play old games, I bought it back and I did it one last time, and I thought, that's it, that's me done with this game. So I thought, buying this, oh well, it'll be like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the PSN. Everything was unlocked, so you can just jump into playing it with your friends. That is not the case here. The Weapon Master mode could have still been there and could have give you either pictures as unlockables or just been there as a mode. You didn't have to really get a reward for it, you know. But it's a bit of a shame that one day I'm going to have to put myself through it again, because it just takes so long, and after a while it stops becoming fun just in order to get the other weapons. And that's my little rant over. It's also a warning to people who might have thought the same as me, that, well, this had it and this had it. I mean, when I bought the new version of Street Fighter, I didn't have to unlock anything. When I bought, you know, it's just a warning for those people. So, onto the game. At the start, you've got original mode, where you've got arcade, you've got versus, but I've got no one here with me at the moment. You've got time attack mode, which is self-explanatory, and survival mode, where obviously you survive, so them two self-explanatory. You've then got team battle and versus team battle. That's basically where you make a team and you keep going until that character's dead. So say you choose Siegfried, Mitsurugi, Taki, and that's your team. You'll play until Siegfried's dead, and then you'll swap over to Mitsurugi. And it's the same with the opponents. So it is possible, if you are amazing, probably the best way to do it, in fact, if you're amazing and you want someone to get into fighters, and you're also a little bit of an egomaniac, I suppose, then you could choose one character who you're best with and then give them a team of 5 and say, come at me, you know. It's a cool little setting. I've always liked it on fighters. Options, you've got a whole heap of stuff. In the game settings, you can choose things which are applicable to arcade versus time attack, survival, team battle versus team battle, practice, or weapon master. And depending on what's highlighted, then depends on which one does what. It's probably very hard to see, because it's very hard to see now, even without the camera lens, but there is just a slight highlightation of the word, so you know what you're changing the settings for. You've then got your controller settings, which you can fully customize if you want to. Basically you go to free and then you choose it, but the standard config works okay, except for the fact that the PlayStation controller is terrible for this game. Honestly, I'm used to playing the GameCube version, and moving over, it has been a huge transition, and that's another reason why I don't want to do Weapon Master, because I'm nowhere near as good at this on this version as I am on the GameCube one, and it's a little gutting, really. You've then got display settings, sound settings, records. You can go into your collection history and you can view the game's manual, because it used to come with a manual back in the day, and now it's obviously digital. Weapon Master, basically, as you might guess, because I said I don't want to play it again to unlock the weapons, it's basically like not so much a story mode, but a mission-based mode where you do like kill 7 enemies whilst only using your left arm, and I think there is actually one as stupid as that, and it's just it's mental, the things that you can do, and some of them are fun, some of them are not. The ones that aren't are basically, there's like labyrinths, and you've got to go through room after room after room, fighting the same enemies over and over again, until eventually you've plotted out the best path through it, or you've plotted out the path that allows you to find the items, or unlock the stage, or this, that and the other. In the end, I had to use a guide when I went through it the third time, because I couldn't remember the best way, and I thought, I'm not going through that labyrinth, which is, I think it was about 30 rooms, the one I was up to, and I thought, I'm not going through every single room, fighting every single thing over and over again, just to get something that I've already unlocked twice before. Arcade mode is where pretty much the brunt of the single player fighting comes into it, because it's like, as I say, the Weapon Master's all sorts of different and zany things. This is just a regular fighter, and you go through it and you get a bit of story at the end, and as you can see, there's quite a few characters, but there's also quite a few I need to unlock. That's another thing that I've yet to do on the PS3 version, and therefore you might be thinking, so why the hell did you buy the game? Well, this is why. Hayachi and Spawn. I only ever had the GameCube version, and for those who don't know, the game originally had one character per version, and it was the Xbox, the PS2, and the GameCube. And the Xbox got Spawn, the PS2 got Hayachi, and the GameCube, if you do not know I will be amazed, got Link from the Legend of Zelda series. So, naturally I bought that one, because I thought, no, I like Link, I'm not too keen on the Tekken series, so I mightn't like Hayachi. At the time I wasn't, and there's a couple of the Tekken games I now do like, and I thought, I know very little about Spawn, except I watched an absolutely horrific movie that was just so awful it was unbelievable, so I thought, yeah, the GameCube version's the one for me. Once I found out how good this game was, and it became one of my all-time favourites in the genre, I absolutely love it so much, it's unbelievable, that I thought, what I would love to do now is get a version with all three characters, so I can at least play them all, and so you can also have the ultimate matchups of Link versus Hayachi, and Spawn versus Hayachi, and things like that. So they announced the HD version, they announced Spawn and Hayachi, they released it at a stupid price, it was way overpriced for what it was, so I've waited this long to buy it until it was on sale. And I bought it so I could play as them too. Obviously, as you might have guessed, Link is not in the game. I am absolutely gutted about it, and there's so many people who don't see the big picture, and they're so close-minded, it's unbelievable, because it's just like, well, why should Link be in that version of the game? You honestly want to know my opinion, and if you click on the vid, you probably do. I reckon Namco went to Nintendo, and I reckon they said, listen, we're doing a remake of that in HD. We want to put it on all three systems, but we want all three characters. That's the deal. And I reckon someone at Nintendo said no, because they didn't want Link on the PS3 and on the 360. Or hell, maybe someone at Sony or maybe someone at Microsoft said no, because they didn't want Link on. But considering there's, as much as it's a rivalry, the rivalry's between the fans, not between the competition. Like, there's not really much of a competition between the devs and all that. I mean, there's so many things that you always hear, just like congratulations on the release of the PS4 and things like that. And I reckon that they should have saw the big picture and they should have put it on. Nintendo at the moment have very bad PR with a lot of stuff. As do Microsoft, to be fair, but that's for a different reason. And the biggest problem with Nintendo is they cannot get the Wii U to sell no matter what, and nothing comes out for it, and it's such a shame because it is actually a brilliant system. I've already slated the Wii earlier on when I said the only reason it was good for was to play old games, and that was my honest truth for it. I hated the system, I really did. The Wii U is a brilliant system, and I would have loved to have played this with all three characters on the Wii U, but I honestly think that it was a case of they cut their nose off to spite their face. I can't see any real reason why they wouldn't have allowed Link on it. It would have been brilliant advertising. It would have probably got a new generation of gamers and kids who have grew up playing the system that their parents own, and you know, it might have then made them think, you know what, this guy's not just a sword fighter, he's got a massive hammer, he's got a giant, basically the massive hammer, the giant megaton hammer is what I'm on about, as well as obviously, I think you get the giant's knife, but that's still a sword. And it's just like, he's got a bug catching net, well that's a bit insane, I mean how do you fight with that? He's got bow and arrow, he's got bombs, you know, it would have, it would have actually been a great advertising tool. And I really do believe that. So it is a bit of a shame if that is what happened, and I don't think we will ever know what really happened. All I can assume is that, and it's because Namco's making Smash Bros at the end of the day. If Namco have been trusted yet again, because this isn't the first time, with one of the most prized Nintendo game series, do you honestly think that they don't have a good relationship? So what other reason would there be for Namco to have gone, you know what, we're going to release Soul Calibur 2, but we're going to exclude the Wii U intentionally? It's a bit insane if you think of it in those terms. That why would they do it when they've got such a good working relationship that they're making yet another Nintendo exclusive? They made the Bat and Kaitos series for them, and that was their creation, really. But then they were given the reins of Star Fox, you know, and now they've been given the reins of Smash Bros. And quite frankly, I would love to see a character from Bat and Kaitos in Smash Bros. I really would. Everyone's seeing Pac-Man, but as far as I'm concerned, if it's not Yoshimitsu from this and Tekken, because Yoshimitsu's in everything, they even put him in a tennis game for crying out loud, then it needs to be someone from Bat and Kaitos, because that was an exclusive to the Nintendo franchise, you know, it was exclusive to the GameCube, and it would make perfect sense for the Namco representative in Smash Bros. To be that, and then that way you're not having to do Pac-Man, which, as much as I love Pac-Man, he wouldn't fit well in a game like that, as far as I'm concerned. And I just don't... that when you start thinking about it and going layer after layer, which I've kind of done here and kind of probably ruined the review, but at the end of the day I've done a much better vid on the GameCube version, which was a much better version, so as far as I'm concerned, I didn't really have to take this one that seriously, and I could get some of these rants out. And it's just, again, when you start to think of everything, it's like, why would they intentionally snub the Nintendo system with Soul Calibur 2 if it wasn't for that reason? And I can only assume that what happened was they said, no, you can't have Link on the other versions, so then people have turned around and said, well, hang on a second, we're not going to let the Wii U have Spawn, Hayachi and Link. That'd be unfair that they get the definitive version, whereas we just get the two characters. So then it might have turned into a case of, well, should we just re-release every version the way it was? And it's just like, well, no, why do that? When then it's giving people less of a reason to buy it on the other systems. So I know what we'll do. We'll release it with Spawn and Hayachi, and hopefully that'll be good enough. And it is, to a point, good enough, but it is a bit of a shame, because I would have just loved a version with all three characters. I'm still glad I bought this to finally been able to play Spawn and Hayachi, and at the end of the day paying like £7.50 with a plus discount for this version was a hell of a lot cheaper than, at the time, buying the full price game for the PS2 and the Xbox. So I'm definitely glad I did it this way. But I still think it's probably been £8 or so wasted, because I can't see me playing it as much compared to the GameCube version, which, other than the graphics, is better in every single way. The controller, I think, works better and it handles better. The gameplay, because of it, is much better with that. The ability to play as Link, who was phenomenal in the game. It's just things like that. I think I have a lot more fun on that version. And it's a bit annoying that the only thing I wanted to really see with this was to play the new characters and to see what their special weapons were, and to instead find out that I might have to sink another couple hundred hours into the Weapon Master mode just to unlock everything is a bit gutting, because I just don't have the time, the energy and the stamina or anything to do that anymore in this game, when I've already done it so many times before, and when I can just think, I'll just play the GameCube version with my mates, rather than I'll just sit here night after night by myself unlocking everything again. You know, it's just one of those things. For people who've never played Soul Calibur 2 before, this is a great version to get. It really is, and it's a great way to do it. But if you've got access to a Wii where you can play the GameCube version, if you've never played it before, I genuinely say go out and get that version, because it's the better version. It's just, as I say, everything about it, bar the graphics, is better. And the HD on this isn't even that great. It's cleaned it up a bit, but it didn't need cleaning up that much, because Soul Calibur 2 was ahead of its time with the graphics. You know, everyone said when they first put it on, wow, because it was stunning, and it still is stunning to this day. So I don't even think the HD adds that much to it, and the controller certainly takes more away than the HD adds to it. I haven't tried the Xbox version obviously, but the Xbox controller is horrific for fighters because everyone's always said the same. I've tried more than enough fighters over the lifespan of the 360 to know that the controller is horrific for fighters. So that's all I can pretty much do, and now I'll just end with a little bit of the music because the music is another thing that's absolutely great about the game.
Cry. Quit now if you want to live. Battle 1. Fight. Don't make me laugh. Battle 2. Fight. Ready? Remember it.
So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.